My name is Ellie, and you won't believe me when I say that my mother has been pregnant for the past 40 years in a row. How is that even possible, you may wonder? You can't truly understand how pregnancy works when you're 11 years old. It caused a lot of confusion, not to mention that it nearly destroyed my life. Until the fact that she was hiding behind her strange pregnancy was uncovered one day. I'll go over everything. I promise it will become clearer. My father, mother, and I used to live in a very small house. We weren't starving, but we weren't exactly wealthy either. Regardless of the circumstances, my mother made certain that I was safe. My father, on the other hand, opted not to stay, and he left us when I was only a year old, so I scarcely remember him. It was difficult for my mother, but it did not break her spirit. In reality, Mom worked 2 jobs and about 14 hours a day to support me. That is, until she became pregnant. It was strange because Mom had never dated anyone. I couldn't believe she could have a baby on her own. That is not all. The oddest part of the story was that she had also quit her 2 jobs unexpectedly, and we had moved to a different city and a larger house in less than a month. I didn't comprehend what was going on, and despite my several questions at the time, I never received a clear answer. All I knew was that we could finally buy stuff like regular people, except for the fact that my mother was always pregnant. That's right, you read that accurately. And believe it or not, she came up with a perfectly reasonable rationale. We sat down and chatted, since I was mature enough to understand how relationships work. She inquired as to whether I was familiar with surrogacy. No, I said. She mentioned that some people are unable to conceive children on their own owing to medical issues with one or both parents. I discovered that not all women are capable of carrying a pregnancy to term. Surrogacy may be a couple's best option for having a child, rather than risking problems. Simply put, my mother lent her body to other spouses so that they could have children. She was fit and robust, and she was capable of carrying a perfectly healthy pregnancy to term. I was stunned for a few moments after hearing the news. Surrogacy, I reasoned. My mother was a true hero. It is quite rewarding to assist others in having a family. I burst into tears and apologized for assuming she was lying all along. But I suppose I was too young to comprehend a 4-year-old pregnancy. It turned out that being a surrogate mother was totally legal, and she had done it twice before. I'd never seen the first infant, but I assumed it was because I was too young to notice. Mom had signed up with a surrogacy agency and was constantly pregnant because she was bearing other people's babies. In exchange, she was entitled to a monthly stipend sufficient to allow us to live comfortably. She said that it was worthwhile because she could no longer handle the stress of a 14-hour workweek, not to mention how little time she spent with me. Finally, it became clear where the money had come from. It was tough for me to accept what Mom did for a career at first, but you can imagine how relieved I was that day. At first, I thought Mom's pregnancy was a hoax and that she was misleading everyone only to receive free money. Doing that for 4 years is a major offense, and she might face prison if detected. But thank God, my mother was an honest person, and I was really proud of what she was doing. But the happiness didn't last long. Because yes, she was a con artist. Let me continue the story. I'll explain in full how the cops captured her red-handed. Years passed, and her pregnancy status remained unchanged. Okay, I understand. According to what she told me, I was too young to value her first pregnancy. Nonetheless, it wasn't until I turned 15 that I realized something was wrong. I wasn't a small kid anymore, and thanks to the internet, I knew she was lying. To be honest, I felt highly suspicious of my mother's position. I was convinced that there was more to her pregnancy than meets the eye, and I was correct, but I couldn't come up with a solution. So I made the decision to take issues into my own hands. Of course, turning my mother into the police was not an option. I was so ashamed that I had to take action. Her secret was consuming me, and while I was pleased with our new comfortable way of life, I felt it didn't belong to us. On my 15th birthday, I went to my mother and asked for an explanation. I asked her, "How come you're never sick or tired?" She became immobile. In case you didn't know, being pregnant is a difficult task. During pregnancy, women gain a lot of weight. How did I find out? Mom keeps a photo of us on her nightstand. I'm a few months older than she is, and she's a few pounds heavier, about 30 pounds heavier. Also, I read online that pregnant women must take a variety of vitamins, not to mention that when the belly begins to grow, it frequently feels nauseous and weary. That was not my mother. I've never seen her fatigued in the 4 years I've known her. She never took any medication or went to the doctor to make sure the baby was okay. Isn't it strange? The baby's parents dropped by the residence one day to check on everything. They gave my mother her monthly salary and wanted to ensure that the pregnancy progressed as planned. She continually assured them that the baby was healthy and strong. But she only accomplished it with words, never with actual paperwork. I was quite disturbed because Mom treated them coldly, blaming them for making her dizzy and weak whenever they asked questions about the baby. They also wanted to see the doctor's baby photographs, but she persuaded them not to look at them in order to keep the baby's gender a surprise. They had a brief discussion regarding the pregnancy's progression. She was in her 8th month of pregnancy, or so she informed them, and Mom assured them that everything was great and that she was just tired and needed to rest. Mom was relieved when they left the house. It made no sense. How can you be dizzy and weak one minute and completely pleased the next? Anyway, I caught Mom drinking wine a month later. Do you believe it? At the age of 9 months pregnant, according to what I understand, pregnant women are not permitted to consume alcohol because it could badly injure the baby. That was the day I realized there was something wrong with the pregnancy. No pregnant woman goes around the house feeling energized and eager to tidy everything. Unfortunately, that was my mother. That unexplained sense of contentment she felt was due, let's face it, to the money she received every month. But everything was about to vanish forever. She awoke one morning feeling exceedingly apprehensive and frightened. She hurriedly dressed and dashed out the door with no explanation. I had no idea how to stop her, and nothing I said worked. It was as if I were invisible. My mother has not been seen in 24 hours. The situation was getting out of hand. I was never left alone in the house for that long before. The parents of Mom's baby knocked on the door the next day, seeking to speak with Lily. I was thinking, Lily? Who is he? I informed them that their mother's name was Aria, not Lily, because I recognized them from their previous visit. I welcomed them in. I informed them that my mother had not returned home in the previous 24 hours. The woman began crying and making various charges. She said that her mother had not once consulted with the baby's pediatrician. She also stated that she repeatedly refused to show them images of the kid. On top of that, it appears she misunderstood her genuine identity. I was completely taken aback. I suspected something was wrong, but I didn't expect her to go so far. The baby's parents called the police, who came to the house to look for Mom, but she was nowhere to be found. They instructed me to call her and inquire about her whereabouts. I did so, but her phone appeared to be out of service. I was terrified and enraged all at the same time. I didn't want to believe my mother was a con artist. Deep down, I had a feeling her pregnancy was not progressing as it had been described on the internet, not to mention that she's been doing it for 4 years. One of the cops received a phone call indicating that Mom's car had been spotted 50 miles away at a gas station. Oh my God, I exclaimed. Was she going to leave town and abandon me? I didn't want to believe she'd abandon me now that the truth had been revealed. The police finally apprehended her after she attempted to flee in her automobile. They had arrested her and taken her to the police station. We all went to see her, me and the desperate couple who had been duped by Mom. Mom was in tears at the station, pleading for forgiveness from all of us. She was never pregnant, it turns out. Simply put, she had been a phony surrogate mother for the past 4 years. Her grand plan was to inform the couple that she had miscarried, but she was just in month 9 of her pregnancy. That was too late now. It was impossible for me to believe, and I somehow blamed myself for the whole thing. Why hadn't I noticed she was lying all along? How could I, though? I was too young to comprehend the process of pregnancy, let alone surrogacy. Mom attempted to make peace in court by apologizing for her behavior. Unfortunately, what she had done had caused a great deal of anguish and hurt to that couple who dearly desired a child. It was their last chance to have a family, and my mother shattered all of their hopes. That same day, I discovered that Mom had duped another couple who had come as witnesses. She was a complete shambles, and while she recognized she did it for the sake of our happiness, the road she selected was not the best one. In the end, she received several years in prison, and I moved in with my aunt. My mother's story continues to bother me, and you can blame me, but I still can't go see her. I can't forgive her for sabotaging someone's desire to have a child. She had caused so much emotional harm to those people, as well as to me, and nothing she said could make up for the lies she had told and the lives she had devastated.